We are enjoying some good weather. It is finally in the 70s here in Kentucky, and it just reminded us of our fun at Disney, and so we decided that we should kind of just recap the trip, relive it a little bit, and just throw out some of our tips and pointers.
So we've done Disney before. We've done Disney in the past, usually just like 3 or 4 days at the parks, and then we will go over to the beach and then spend the rest of our time over at the beach. We had a little more time this time, and so we extended our trip, but really we decided to extend our trip because once I was booking it, I discovered that if you book, it's like after 4 days is kind of like the magic number, but anything over 4 days, your park passes become significantly cheaper. And so for us, we just decided to extend our trip. So we decided to do 10 days in the parks. So 10 days in the park and 12 days at the campground was about double what it was going to cost us just for the 4 days. And so for us, we felt like that was a good value, and it just made us feel like we could go to the parks and enjoy our time there a little bit more. When we go to Disney, well, before in the past, it seems like it's very chaotic, very busy, very exhausting. And so this time our attitude with going to the park, since we were going longer, we just decided that we were going to take our time. And so instead of doing 12-hour days at the park, we just were going to do 5 hours a day. And so we weren't completely whipped at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it was just a nice break. It just made it more enjoyable. We didn't have to feel like we only had 3 or 4 days to get everything smashed into a small amount of time. And so just having the extra days allowed us that time, like she said, to just enjoy and only have to spend a couple hours at the parks. Boone, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
Yes?
I can't get the water in the bucket. It's too hard to turn the thing on.
Okay, I'll come get you some in a minute.
So because we were in our RV and staying at the campground, we just decided, well, when we were able to, for the first time, to pack our own lunches or dinners into the park, which I didn't even know that you could do that the first couple of times we went to Disney. I just kind of found that out. So since we had the RV, we just were able to store and cook food and pack it to take into the park with us, which saved us tons of money. So typically what a day would look like is we would have a meal, usually breakfast, go into the park and take our lunch, and then come home and cook dinner back in the RV. Or we would eat breakfast and lunch in the RV, go into the parks and pack a dinner, and then come back. So we were usually in the park just long enough to have one meal. We also, Brent made fun of me, but it actually was a great idea.
Hi, Violet.
Okay. It was a great idea, but I bought all of the kids a fanny pack. And before we left to go into the parks, each kid would get to choose 3 snacks that they wanted to take for the day. And then they had to manage their own snacks while we were in the park. So if they ate through them in the first 5 or 10 minutes, then they were out of snacks for the day. So it was their job and responsibility to make their snacks last during our stay at the park. So they kind of learned like how to budget their snacks for, the time that we were there. That also just cut down on the I'm hungry, or I want this, or I want that. We got some snacks that they were excited about that really we just didn't have to deal with that a whole lot. And then we got like a refillable popcorn bucket. It was like $10 to buy the bucket, and then like $2 to refill it. And so we would take that into the park with us, and we would fill that, a couple times during the day, which was like a special treat. So, and then all of the kids had, we had these collapsible water bottles, which were really awesome. They like this big. I should grab one, I guess, but they're like this big around, and they like fold down real small. And then when you want to use it, it's like an accordion. You just pull it open and you can fill it with water. And so we just drank water while we were at the park and used our water bottles. And when we were done, we could just fold them back down and put them into the kids' fanny pack. And we weren't keeping up with water bottles.
Yeah, those worked great until we put margaritas in them and took those in, and then we tried to reuse them for water, and they pretty much taste like margaritas. So
that's true.
If you're going to do that, have 2 separate, margarita bottle and a water bottle.
Yeah. So we bought a big bottle of pre-made margaritas at Costco before we went, and we got this great idea, like, hey, hey, we can take these in our water bottles into the park, because they didn't check what was inside of our water bottle. So Brent and I each day would take a margarita into the park, and that definitely made the experience better.
Takes the edge off.
Yeah, it was like $6 for this huge bottle of pre-made margarita that lasted us the entire trip versus $20, not really, but expensive for one margarita at the park. So
Yeah, and one tip that somebody gave us on the refillable popcorn was to take an extra bag. So with a family of 7, like the little bucket, I mean, it was a decent sized bucket, but we would eat through it pretty fast. So we would just fill it up when we were at a station, dump it in a bag, and then get it filled up again. So $4, and we'd have enough to last longer for the whole family. One of the things we found out while we were there was extra hours. So you can see the parks have different extended hours on certain days, and if you're a member or you're staying at a resort, which the campground's considered a resort, you can have access to those extra hours, and those are awesome. So there was days that they were either early in the morning, we'd get up and go, or if they were late at night, then we would just sleep in and let the girls take a nap during the day, and then we would go to the park at night. And it ended up being great because there's hardly anybody there. You know, lines were short. You could walk right onto a lot of stuff that usually had a pretty long wait. And so that was something we definitely recommend checking into and finding out while you're at the parks or at Disney, which parks have extended hours.
yeah, and it's not as hot at night, which has also made it more enjoyable. And like, because we stayed longer, we were able to do each park twice, some of the parks 3 times. And experiencing the parks at night is different than experiencing them during the day. So that was kind of cool too, to get both the parks at night and the parks during the day.
We packed a lunch or a dinner just about every day, except when we went to Epcot. That was Emily's treat and all of our treat. We enjoyed just eating our way around the world at the different countries and trying new things. So that was the one place that we splurged a little bit, which we felt like we could do because we had saved money by packing lunch the other 7 days that we were in the parks, or packing dinner. So
And actually, Epcot was our favorite park. Overall,
kids too.
Our family really loved Epcot. I think we did like some studying of the countries before we went, and I just felt like we had a good understanding of the park, of the cultures that we were experiencing, and our whole family like preferred Epcot over any other of the parks there. So I don't know. So we went 3 times to Epcot and ate a lot.
I think we only ate the same thing twice.
Which was the Mexican.
We ate something from Mexico that was fantastic. Oh, and we
couldn't even say it. I don't even know what it was, but
it was great.
Sopas something.
And we had the grapefruit beer from Germany twice, because that was amazing.
So good. So this was the first time that we got to go to Disney where there were fast passes. And so I've heard about these fast passes, and I knew I probably should use them. And so I spent some time before we left on really understanding how these things work, and I felt like it was a major advantage for our family. So I went on to Pinterest and before we went to find out which rides in each park typically had the longest lines, and that kind of let me know which fast passes or what rides I need to use my fast passes for. So I felt like that was really helpful. It wasn't something like that caused us stress during our trip. Like if we couldn't make a fast pass or something changed, it's okay. It didn't ruin our day. We would just reschedule it, or we just would miss it. But for the most part, it was very helpful to have them. We literally could walk onto rides, or you may wait 10 or 15 minutes, which was much better than waiting an hour and a half or 2 for some of these rides.
And what we learned is the key on the fast pass, you can only have 3 at a time, and you can't renew any until you've used all 3 of them. So on the days that you're going to the park, try to schedule your fast passes early in the morning, all 3 of them, so that you can utilize them then. And then once you're done, then you can reset and get some for the afternoon too.
Yeah, so we didn't know that this time. We learned that later on during our stay, and we changed it, and it was better. But if you have a fast pass for, 10 o'clock in the morning, noon, and then 7 o'clock at night, you can't book any more fast passes until that third fast pass has been used at 7 o'clock at night. So if we would have done a fast pass for 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock, then we would have a new fast pass that we could then reschedule for later in the evening. So yeah, you definitely need to utilize your fast passes. And they have an app where you can just change everything on the phone, which was super easy to use too. I think it's called My Disney Experience. And we were able to get like reservations there for restaurants and change our fast passes, get maps of the parks. They would show us what time the shows were coming on, what time the fireworks were at that park that night. So you definitely want to download My Disney Experience app before you go to Disney. Kind of familiarize yourself with it because it will make your stay much more efficient if you know how to use the app.
On one fast pass that I would recommend not getting, because I recommend not riding the ride at all, is Peter Pan. It's like an hour and 45-minute wait anytime we've ever been there for nothing. It's
90-second ride that was anticlimactic, and our kids were like, "That's it?" And we're like, "I know, that's it, yeah." And they were just like highly disappointed, and we were too. It was terrible. But apparently, if you want to ride it, you would want to get a fast pass because the line is always ridiculous. But it's just not worth it for us. Like, it was kind of...
Yeah, it's even with a fast pass, it's not
silly.
Worth a 15-minute wait.
No, silly.
I think one of the drawbacks of the campground, which we loved the campground, it was just as good as any resort there. Great setting, all the amenities that you could want, clean. It was great. One of the things we didn't realize was the transportation. So we planned, and we actually ended up using transportation, which was the bus system to and from the parks. And so when we got there, we saw a bunch of golf carts parked up, like personal golf carts. And we're like, man, what are these for? And what we found out was that you have to catch a bus from your campground to the front of the campground resort to catch a bus to go to the park. So you're getting 2 buses each way. And so a lot of people just brought their own golf carts so that they could drive to the front whenever they want. They didn't have to wait on a bus at the bus stop, and then they could get on the bus to the parks. They do rent golf carts there.
No, you should have just buy it for that price.
But for being there 12 days, we could have bought one. It was like $65 a day. So if you have access to a golf cart, you're going to the campground, definitely recommend doing that. The other thing we actually realized too is if you're a member of, if you're staying at a resort, all the parking at the parks is free. So we should have actually, I think it would have been easier for us just to get in our van and drive to the park each day. The parking distance that you had to walk compared to getting off the bus really wasn't that big of a deal. And we found that out on the last day as we left and went to Epcot.
Well, we actually didn't have our car this time.
Oh, that's
we didn't
true.
haul our car.
Oh, that's true.
So,
yeah. So if we would have taken a car. We didn't take it because we thought we had, transportation. But it would have been easier for sure with a car, just trying to get everybody loaded up and stroller and all that kind of stuff. So that would definitely be a recommendation.
Yeah. But overall, we enjoyed our stay at Disney. We felt like it was relaxing. It was nice to get away in February where it was nasty here. It was nice to go south where it was warm. That just felt good for all of our spirits. We had a great time, but we don't feel like we're Disney people. Like, it's not our thing. But
we could definitely do it better, but we won't try again until we have grandkids. Probably. We told the kids when we left the park on the last day, I told them, turn around, take a look, because you ain't going to see it until you bring your kids back.
Yeah, so I'm glad we did it. We had a great trip, made great memories, but I just don't think we're those people that are going to go back to Disney every year or more, or ever again.
Too many other things to see in this country to take the RV. It was kind of like a destination to stop. Like, check, we hit that location. Let's move on to and explore something new and different. Yeah,
and I feel like we did it in a great way that was on budget for a family of 7 to go for that long. Like, I felt like it wasn't terrible, But even the amount of money that we did spend, man, we could do a lot of really awesome things with that budget. So, yeah, we did it. Check. Had a good stay. Won't be back.